Hello everybody who is a part of this meeting. My name is Ishita Hiremat, and we are two Ishitas in this group. It's going to get a little confusing. It's been so far like that. I interned at INRS Laval, and I got selected by the Mitacs for 2021. And my project was a bibliography based project, and my professor was really sweet enough because most of the work was supposed to be done in the lab, but since he wanted me to be eligible for the graduate fellowship, he kind of agreed and compromised to work with me, which was really considerate and sweet on his part. And so we worked on H. pylori bacteria, and it was more towards biology. However, in case you want to apply to different domains, I don't think it's going to be very difficult because it's more or less the same. So we all will be equally helpful for that as well. So don't go like branch specific. You can just be as generic and as general as possible.
Can the participants please mute themselves? Okay, so mute.
Okay, we'll be. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll go on. Yeah. So hi everyone. Yeah, I am a student actually from Hong Kong. So yes, actually also time zone and everything is different. So I actually calculate myself in Google search it before. I actually don't know how time runs in different places. Anyway, so yeah, I'm a student from the University of Hong Kong, which I yep, here. Yeah, so a bit of myself. So that guy on the right hand top corner is me, and I'm from Hong Kong. So this summer I'm doing the internship at McGill University as Dr. Jen Yuli's lab. So more about biomechanics, and by that means like doing actually a lot of experiments. Should have been doing a lot of experiments if I was there, but then I'm not. So mainly my project now is more like literature if you're also modeling for the blood clot contraction, and what actually it is like if you I don't know, if you're cooking and then somehow you cut yourself or something, you bleed, right? And when you bleed, the wound will heal somehow. So when the wound is healing and the thing gets smaller, that's what the blood clot contraction means. And there's a bit complicated graph here, which I won't really go super deep because it's kind of hard. Anyway, so also about some actuation properties. So more like if it can do some robotic moves if in a fancy way, or it's like if it can move something. Yeah, so because blood clot is if it can contract, it has some force and looks cool if it can push something or pull something or anything. So that's something what I do. And yeah, feel free to ask anything about like this biomedical stuff or anything you want about the application. Yeah, so I'll maybe stop sharing and give it to next person.
Thanks so much.
Nice.
Yeah, do you want to go, Shadul?
Sure. So I'll just share my screen. So hi everyone, my name is Shadul Kale. I am pursuing my bachelor's here in India in Nagpur. I'm not from any IITs, so hi. I was an intern at McGill University in the catalytic and plasma process engineering group. And you don't really need to know about research, but it was about catalytic conversion of carbon dioxide into methane and using methane as a fuel. So a lot of like it was supposed to be a very experimental based research, but due to the pandemic, it got converted into a virtual internship. So I was doing all kind of simulation and computation. This is me. This is my project description, and this is a little about me on the McGill website. That was really cool. So I want to tell you, like, I'm not like very great student or anything. So, and you don't need to be that either. Just if you are very smart about your application, you might get selected, and there's a good chance of you getting selected because you don't. A lot of your peers would not have a research background because you started like most of your BTech, your graduation is taking place in during the pandemic, like you're all at home. So it's okay if you don't have any research experience from the calls that I've received till now from people like you.
they don't have research experience. So it's totally fine. We'll work through it. I will tell you how to apply for universities and how you should go about selecting your projects. I think that a lot of people have that doubt. So don't worry. And hi.
That's actually super nice to see from McGill website.
Yeah, that was so cool. Ritu, please.
Okay. Hi everyone. So I am Ritu and I am currently in fourth year, right? Just started in fourth year, and I'm from the engineering department of Punjab University, Chandigarh, right? Not from IIT again. And my project is like I don't have a PPT prepared, but it's like defining the peroxisome lipid signaling network in innate immunity of Drosophila melanogaster, which is a fruit fly, right? Which we all know. And my host university is Dalhousie University under Dr. D. Kara. So it was supposed to be like on knockout, knockout cells, and cell culture was there for the process. But since it was virtual, so my professor, we had a meeting, and she was kind enough to ask me whether you want to go with the review, literature review, or you want to work on data, which she was going to generate, right? So we decided on doing on the data. So right now it's still going on because we started in July again, because I had my exams in June. So she shifted to July. And yeah, right now I'm just working on the data, and it's still going on my internship. So that's it, right? Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'll introduce myself next. So I am Ishita Shresht, and I am from Birla Institute of Technology, Misra, not IIT again. And so I am currently in my final year of BTech Biotechnology, and my host university for the internship was Ryerson University in Toronto. And our project was basically on rapid virus detection using surface enhanced Raman spectroscopy. So it sounds a little heavy, but when I went deeper into it, it was a very cool topic actually. So right currently we were working on detecting SARS-CoV-2 virus from the saliva samples, and then to have the rapid point of care diagnostic technique using the surface enhanced Raman spectroscopy. So I couldn't perform a lot of lab experiments, but it was cool to research and perform that, like do some analysis from softwares. So yeah, that was it. Cool. Is Syed here? Like Syed was supposed to be here. I did not get a text. Okay, I think if he comes back, we'll introduce him later. So, like what we had decided, we have already got so many questions already. So, what we decided was like we'll go through the application section by section, and we'd entertain all the questions section wise so that everyone's questions are answered. So let's begin. I'll share the screen. 1 second. You guys can see the chat. I'll just where is it? Yeah. So like I tried to make a dummy account so that we can go through each section. So here's the welcome part, and then there's the project part, and then the application part. In case someone has not yet registered, please do register. And then you will see the application status, or if it's complete or incomplete. And many people ask the question, if I have completed the application, so how can I submit it? So as it's written here, there's no submit button. Your application will automatically be submitted at the deadline. So all you can do is keep updating your application if you want to and save it. And that's all you have to do. So let's begin. This is a personal information. I don't think there's much to talk about unless you have a question here. Okay, and then there's the education part.
The only thing is that you don't, this thing, you don't need to have a passport while applying, but it will be a good idea to apply for it if you don't have it. Like you need to have it before December 31st of this year. If you get selected, I think there will be, you need to show it to them. If you don't have a passport, still apply. But in the meanwhile, just be safe, apply for a passport beforehand.
Yeah, so there was this question I remember someone asked me. So if I do not have a passport, should I select yes or should I select no? So what do you suggest, guys? Because
Yeah, just select yes. Just
Yeah.
select yes. Yeah, don't worry. I did the same thing. That's why.
okay. Okay, then we can come to the education part in case someone has a doubt here. Are there any questions regarding this particular part of the application? I can't really see the chat.
Can you go down? There's this thing about marks over there.
Here,
No, just yeah. So my grade, that is out of 100. A lot of universities in India give the results in CGPA. If you go to your website, university website, they will have a equation which will
Scale.
convert. Yeah, they will change they convert the CGPA into a percentage. So use that for converting. I think this that equation would also be on your transcripts which you receive from your university. So a lot of people have how what should I write in this dialog box? Please do that. Go to your university website, check how they convert CGPA into percentage, and then input it here.
So I think one of my juniors from NIT Nagpur had asked me that my university name is not listed in the list given above. So there's actually host university list. So they provide you all the list of universities. So in case your university is not mentioned in the institute, you can email to the mitacs.helpline, whatever that is mentioned on the website. But it is, at times that does happen that your university might not be mentioned there, because that happened the last time with NIT Nagpur kids. So in such a case, it could either they can change it and they can help you out with that, or you
Or
might
you
not
won't be
have a
able to
chance. So
apply. Yeah.
exactly. So in such a case, you should just scrap off my tax and start preparing for the rest of them.
Yeah, and I think someone asked about the grades, how to translate from 100 to, I don't know. For example, in Hong Kong, we actually have used something like PPA, which has a super random. I don't know why, but the top score is 4.3. I don't know how it comes from, but then anyway, so if you are something like that, for me, I just make the ratio. So it's like if you got 4.3 out of 4.3, I'll write 100 out of 100 and so on. Yeah, and I don't know for other places how it's like. Is it also 100 or other thing? But I'll say just ratio is okay.
Okay. In India, in India, the general formula for converting CGPA to percentages, CGPA minus 0.75 into 100. That's the general AICTA formula, which you will find on Google directly. So if your university, you don't find it anywhere, just use this formula. CGPA
However,
minus
I still
0.75 into 100.
yeah,
sorry, yeah, but however, I
Now
still
go on.
recommend that check your own college website
Yeah,
first,
yeah, yeah.
because at BIT Mesa we had actually a very what do you say, an absolute marking system. So in such a case, it didn't require us to subtract anything. We just had to multiply it with a fact with 10 and then write our GPA. So first, I think you should consult your professors, and then if you don't find it, you can use the standard AICT one if it doesn't harm you. If it does, then I still prefer using the professor one.
yeah. Ritu, do you have something different in your college?
Okay, no, actually not. We just multiply by 10. We have a CGPA out of 10, right? So I multiplied mine with 10 and that's how I got it.
Yeah, same here. I think you should all check your transcript basically. That's where you'll get to know what exactly it's like. And there's another
Ah,
question about English or French proficiency exam. So it's
you
not
don't really need
necessary
to put your IELTS score. If you have it,
to have
sure,
it,
put
you
it
can.
in. You don't need, it is not really mandatory to put in.
Yeah, right.
And I
Okay.
think I did this mistake. My tax is the transcript is extremely different from grade cards and grade sheets and screenshot of marks, because I was not aware of this. And I remember one day before my application, I was calling my examination department and asking for a transcript. So don't do that mistake. Transcript is an official document signed by your examiner or the examination department of your university. So that is a very important point, because that is going to be the basis of your application being selected or denied.
Okay, I want to add one thing, right, for our college, because our hasn't opened up yet, and there's a difficulty getting the transcripts, right, like your mark sheets semester wise, which I did for myself. So what you can do is go to the website where you can see your result, And for us, we had the provisional mark sheet. So you can just get the provisional mark sheet if it's not available. Like you can't go to your university and get the mark sheet, and just make a PDF and attach till wherever you have your result available. I had mine till third semester. So yeah.
There's this question, because of COVID, our university is not issuing transcript. So in that case, you can ask your university in what is the backup that you can use. I think that in particular case, you can use a mark sheet, like a screenshot of your website marks or something like that. Well,
You
yeah.
can also do one thing. You can ask your HOD that you will send them your PDF, and they should just put the initials below, because that is basically what your that's basically how your transcript looks like, right? So they can just sign put their initials there.
Yeah, and there's this thing, Vellore Institute of Technology, people can download it online. Yeah, there are such specific instructions for each university. I think you should check your own university website in case they're issuing online transcript or not. I mean, BIT has it, so I guess others should also have it. If not, then you can always contact your HOD. Okay,
So for Taha Ali Khan, no, you do not need to get your provisional transcript signed by anybody.
okay.
No. So the transcript actually contains your grades for every subject that you have enrolled for since the beginning of your institute, right? So that is a transcript. What we are talking about is a transcript, and your grade card will only have for a particular semester. So if you have a transcript, you do not need to get it signed by attested by anybody, and that transcript will contain your scores from the beginning of your undergraduation. So that should not be an issue.
There's this question. I have grade sheets only till my third semester, as my fourth semester result is yet to be released. Can I apply with that? I think so, yes. Or
We applied with that as well.
Yeah.
as long as
Like just
yeah,
make it your updated one will be okay.
yeah, you can always update it later if the deadline persists you allows you to. But until then,
I
you
want
can
to add
always,
one thing.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. For Taha, right? So for the provisional mark sheet, you can contact the coordinator, right, if you want to get it attested or not. Because in our, we don't have a separate transcript. We have the mark sheet semester wise, and that's what we use for the admission purpose. So you can just contact her, right?
Yeah. Okay, should we like shift to the other section? Like this, this is the most difficult part for all students, I guess, to show what exactly they have to write. There's just so many questions like, what should I write? I mean, it's very difficult. I think it took us 1 month to actually write something for our own self as well. Thinking continuously what to write, what not to write. And so my approach here, I think we can all discuss our approaches. So personally, what I did last year was like I wrote something like skills and then background, and like I made these sections like this, and then I started filling up the spaces as much as the word could permit me. So I did not use full sentences. I just went very briefly about the techniques that I know or the things that I am supposed to know according to the projects I've chosen. So in case of biotechnology based projects, what I think everyone must have, I do not know, but personally what I used was like the techniques in the labs and some of the theory parts, which is important, like sequencing and stuff like that. And research and tests I wrote exactly related to the projects that I've chosen, because anything beyond that would just mean that I am not really focused on the projects that I want to take up. And experience, what did you write, Ishita? Like for experience, because I do not remember at all.
I'm actually trying to, I had sent the answers that I had uploaded to somebody on LinkedIn. So I was just trying to retrieve it so I can post it here. So I think for my skills, background knowledge, research, interest, and experience, my answer was pretty much in a paragraph. And I remember, so before I came to this point, I had actually shortlisted my professors. And I went through exactly what they need, because they've written, so there are like 4 tabs when you get a professor's name, right? So you have what do they expect out of you, what can you learn, and so on. I think they have 4 sets of information. Apart from the topic name, they have, like, including the topic name, they had 4 of them. So I used to first make a list of it, and I should realize that what matches with my resume already, because then it will be easier for me to build a story, right? So I had my information on oncology and computational biology. So I tried to pick up professors of these domains, and then I realized what they wanted, and that is how I kind of twisted, or you could say in a way rephrased my work to fit in them.
Right.
And that,
Yeah.
and I might still have it. I'll share it with you all.
What about
Yeah.
And
Sum?
Yeah. For me, first of all, I think it's good to differentiate into 4 different things for like skills, knowledge, interest, and experience. Because obviously, if you only have 100 words, you can't really do paragraph form. Like, I have good skills of blah blah blah. You already wasted a few words. So point form must be okay and super suggested by me. And then secondly, I think that at that time I was lazy. For skills, I literally copy what I posted on my LinkedIn. So but later actually I found out it might be better if you actually want to really look at, for example, your first priority of your project. Mainly you just choose the ones that match your project the most, or I don't know, maybe not the first, maybe the top 2 or 3, because people will see, oh, you have the skills I need, and then they will take more likely to take you. But probably because I type in everything from my LinkedIn, so probably people feels, oh, you know a lot, maybe like that. Anyway, so for the background knowledge, you can say what you're studying. For example, for myself, biomedical engineering, and I also did other major of materials engineering. So I kind of just put this 2. And if you actually learn a bit knowledge from your other projects or something, like, I don't know, maybe manufacturing some stuff, or I don't know, 3D printing, like, those fancy things, you can just put it in there. And then research interest and experience. Actually, a lot of people ask me, they might not have a lot of interest. I mean, experience. You certainly need interest because you are applying for at least one project or something. You can just summarize that project name into a specific interest name, such that people feel, oh, okay, you are really interested in this field. I mean, of course, you have to be genuine though, just because it's the project, so you put the things like that. But then, in short, you can do some sort of summarizing like that. And finally, for experience, I did have a bit of lab, like before that, but then actually previously I don't really have a lot of experience, so I kind of include those projects, like still need to do a bit of research and little bit of making the prototype or something. I'll include those projects. But then for me, I would suggest you don't need to really list out all the experiences, even though you did a lot of projects or something, because people usually like to see highlights, like mainly what you learned from your experience. For example, like for my case, I actually did something about actually how to say, actually I did a random things. It's got this like Internet of Things, something like that. So I won't actually say like, oh, how this work, how that work. Maybe mainly I'll say what I've accomplished, because that wasn't will show what results or what things you have actually done. So or if you have done other things, like I don't know, any lab you are doing, don't just say I'm doing lab, but more like what I did learn during the lab, or like which specific things you have achieved, or find out, or something like that. Like any breakthrough from your experience will be better, because everyone can just write I do lab in whose lab and what's lab. It's easy to write that, but then to make yourself stand out, you probably need to say like, oh, I've accomplished this thing and that thing.
I think there are
so I
many.
think adding,
Yeah, there are many questions that someone can share their SOP. So if in case Ishita, you can.
yeah, I am kind to get it up and I'll share it. And adding to Sum's point,
Yeah. Okay. You can.
so I think I would want to add on Sum's point, saying that a lot of us have worked on a lot of things pretty well, but if you do not understand how to put it across properly, it will not make the impact that's necessary. So at most cases, we were just discussing before you all joined that a lot of people who do not have very good profiles also make it, because they just write what they've done in a very compelling manner, and that is extremely essential in the field of research if you look. So your work might be just at a point of 3 on 10, but if you present it as 8, it will be published somewhere near 6 or 7, right? So it's just the way how you present it. And I think if you do not know how to write it in the right words, the right tone, just Google stuff up, check out what are the required words. Don't use redundant common words. Be very specific with your vocabulary, because these are all mistakes that I did. And luckily I had people around me to correct that. So you should be very, very sure of what you're writing, because this is the only way they know who you are. So I think you
I
should
would
be
like
very
to,
careful with this.
yeah, sorry. I would like to add one thing, right? My approach toward this section was very different from whatever you have discussed, right? So, as Ishina said, I also looked up for the projects which I was interested, and my most of the interest was towards genetics and immunology, right?
Yeah.
So, whatever skills I wrote, they were immunological or genetic skills. Whatever background knowledge I wrote those subjects in the first, and then after that, I wrote other subjects, right? Like biochemistry and molecular biology. For the research interest, my goal or my research interest was like a kind of long term. Why I want to do this, how it will align towards my goal, like in a short few words, not a paragraph, right? And for the experience, I obviously didn't have much experience because already COVID was there. So some basic lab skills I wrote, again, they were immunological ones. And for the genetic ones, some sequencing things which I learned. And other than that, I had got into the Amgen Scholars Program. So it was cancelled, obviously, but I wrote that because of COVID, it was cancelled, right? So that was under the experience part, which I wrote. But I would say that if you have any experience, be it cancelled, be it you have done it virtually in person, just write them in your CV, just write them in your experience if you have the words there. Okay.
Shardul.
Yeah, so with me, in our time we had to write 3 paragraphs. Okay, so I didn't approach this writing the SOP in a single manner, like I have to write an SOP, I have to write notable achievements, and I have to write my academic achievements, research rationale. So what I did was I clubbed them, I saw them as like a single essay of 300 words, and I had separated them into 3 paragraphs, which come together and tell a single story. So like for me, I didn't write it in bullet points. I wrote it in a story formats, like what I want to do, why I want to pursue this internship. I want to do a PhD in the future. So I wrote that. I wrote that I want to do a PhD in Canada. So this will help me, this aligns with my goals and help me get an exposure to the Canadian research industry and how the thing actually works. So I didn't really write my skills in this description. I just wrote why I want to pursue research and what are the kind of projects that I've already done in the past. So like I had done waste management, water treatment, and something like that. So I tried to tell that in a story format. I didn't go for bullet points. And like as others have mentioned, if whatever you have done it, I understand that you have not been able to do a lot of things because of the pandemic. You can write your skills in, like, you don't have to just use proper wording and see how you can present your ideas, because at the end of the day, all you need to do, all these things will only help you in getting an interview. Okay, so you have to show your professor how well you can present your ideas and how well you can write. Because at the end of the day, academic research is all about publishing and conveying your ideas through good research and literature, right? So show exhibit your writing skills in this section. And even if you have like little experience in something, write it, and in the interview you can justify how you got that experience. So don't really worry about that.
Yes, and specifically like for notable achievements, there are many questions. This is the defining factor for your application, I would say. Like here, exactly the professor understands what defines you from the other applicants. So you should mention all kinds of achievements that makes you you, like how you are like separated from others. Like if it's even
Mhm.
as little as like maybe you have got a scholarship sometime back, you can mention that. Like if you
Mhm.
mention you have got a rank sometime back in an Olympiad, or maybe in any cultural fest, so it will show that you are a team player, and like your basic characteristics, that you are a team player, you are like adaptable to all kinds of opportunities, and you take up opportunities and learn from them. Like such things should be understandable. And even in the AICT webinar that happened, the Mitacs coordinator told that your application should make you like stand out from others, to make it as good as ornamental as you can. And so here is the part where you add up. So like do not think that oh ye to kabhi mila tha, so I got it back. Sometimes it's not as important as I think it is. So just write it down, write as many achievements as you can, and you don't need to think twice if what will like think. You shouldn't like just write it down and then let it be there, I would say. Like I think I wrote a lot of things, like and I won a case study competition, so I wrote about that. I got scholarships, so I wrote about that. And then besides this, even the cultural fests that we had won, I wrote about that as well, because I want them to know that I have been active in college as well. So so just write down whatever you think is important according to you. Like do not hold yourself back. Just show to the
One more thing. Hi, sorry to interrupt. One more thing that I forgot while writing the general description is that you will be selecting 7 projects. So try to write your research interest in that domain of the projects that you have selected. Like don't go for specific things, but give a theme. So for example, if you are doing like your projects are in water treatment, so write about that. If your projects are about nanotechnology, or so like someone wrote here ML, AI, and that. So write that you have a general interest in that and how you want to pursue that in the future, how you want to build on this experience so you can get better and more opportunities in the future. So like 100 words is very short. I understand that all of us had a problem while writing it, but you have to make sure that you give the best information that will help you getting selected. Okay, so like if you show that you are really interested in research, even if you don't have prior experience, the professor will prefer you because you are really determined in getting this opportunity. So make sure you, if you don't have experience, you at least try to show the professor that you are really interested in research and this is what you want to do in the future. That way they might give you a chance even if you don't have projects.
like and
Yeah.
yeah
It's kind of like selling yourself, like
Exactly,
kind of you could say
exactly.
put like that you want to get that interview. Like at least for me, it was like getting that interview was the main thing, or getting into that was main thing. So it's like sell yourself as good as possible. कोई भी achievement हो, just write that, okay?
Exactly.
So
अगर
here
कुछ नहीं
I
है तो कुछ
have
better है.
हाँ.
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
I beg
So
to differ a bit. So my opinion is that what I did is, so there were a couple of things that I did which might be wrong, but I think you can do it. So for example, I was not very comfortable with Python language, but I still mentioned in my skill set that I know the basics of Python, so that if I get selected for an interview, I can sit a week total and just learn and mug it up and do whatever it takes to learn that, to show that I know it. So if you think there are skills that you can pull off at the last moment, you can do that. And when it comes to what achievements are notable, I realize somebody had asked that question. So I did not specifically write about my college-based achievements or my extracurricular achievements. I mentioned only a couple of them which I thought were really, worth mentioning. For example, a debate competition that I had won when I was in class 12th, which was at New Delhi. So I was funded to go to New Delhi for a debate competition. I wrote about such stuff and not about everything, because it should look like an application which is going for research, and it should not look
Exactly.
like an
Yeah, that's
application which is
Yeah.
going for a
Mhm.
debating competition,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So if you don't have any specific notable achievements, you can just write if you're the topper of your class or you rank 1, 2, and 3. That's a notable achievement as well. But
Yes.
just keep it, just weave it to your academics as much as possible. Even if that means that you've got a specialization, if you've been eligible for a program called specialization at your college, because I was. That's a different story that I didn't take it or could not complete it. But I did write that, saying that they noticed my scores, my passion, my achievements, and I was given an opportunity to do an extra specialization in biocomputational subject. So that is a notable achievement as well. But I don't think in terms of notable achievement, you should include stuff like competitions that you won or something like that. That is not a very good idea. And when it comes to a general description of skills and background knowledge, what I did is I wrote it in bullet points. So I kind of segregated my skills. So I wrote biology based skills, personal skills. I wrote I think, yeah, I wrote it computational skills, and that's how I segregated. I had like 5 to 10 points, and out of which 1 point was what are my goals. So there I mentioned that I want to be a part of the scientific community to kind of help those, cliche you might call them. That is what exactly I had written. So my general description of skills was in bullet points because that helped me save my words, and that worked for me. So that might work for you as well.
Right. And then
Yeah.
sometimes, sometimes like Ishita told, like maybe you do not need to include competitions, but sometimes you feel that you do not have enough. Like you're just beginning in the academic career. In that case, you can always put up all the achievements that you think you have. As she said,
Yeah.
try to make it inclined towards the academic sector. That's true. But mention anything. Like someone asked if I can mention a volunteering program. Definitely you can. And for skills, I
I
had
wrote
one
that.
thing. Yeah, I had one thing for skills. Like when you check the skills that are required by the professors in the projects, there are some very basic skills that you may think it's not necessary to mention, but professors are specifically looking for that. One of my professors had asked like if the student was Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop and is good with presentation skills. So what I did was I definitely specifically mentioned that I am very adept with like Microsoft presentation and Adobe Photoshop. Like I'm a beginner. So keep in mind the skills that are required by the professor as well. You may think that these are too generic to be mentioned because everyone knows it, but sometimes it's something very important for the professor for you to know. So also mention that.
Also, I want to
Yeah.
add to it. Right now, I remember that under skills thing, I also wrote that I am good with like teamwork and speaking skills. Now, I supported that with what I was a tutor. I had tutoring experience of more than 2 years. So I mentioned that in my CV, in the work experience as well as in the skills, that I am good with the communication. And for the notable achievements, we have scholarships in our college, right? It's based upon academics. So if you have one, just write them. So yeah, yes.
Yeah, so I also read a lot of questions saying like, yeah, I maybe have this kind of experience, this kind of internship or something, but maybe not super long, maybe not super related to the topic. And yeah, actually add it, and I would say like just add it, because if you don't add it, what more can you write? And but then of course the priority might be related. For example, if you're doing something like maybe just 1 month, but then you're doing something really deep enough or is super related compared with a I don't know 3 months internship, which is not really that related. Of course, I would choose the one with more related to go first, and maybe with a bit more description, even though it's not super long, but then you can write it to be to be long enough to feel like okay, it's something quite important for as your experience. And yeah, I think what should do, and also Ishta, I mean both Ishta, you have mentioned like something very good on like maybe if you don't have experience, write about your termination and like how you really want to do stuff, and probably you can also add it into like research interest, like why I do have this interest, something like that. And for the notable achievements for me, I you can actually still write something about achievement during your like research or project, but because from what I said as in the at the like first box, I already like in a research experience, maybe I've already written something similar. So of course, if you want to save space and to write more things about you, probably you don't want to get repeat. So maybe yeah, something like maybe good grades in class or something can be also be that. I mean, like if you're like studying another minor or something, probably you won't write here. Probably you write in like background knowledge, like you maybe you have something super cool, like you study astronomy or something. Maybe not really that related, but then if you want to type what you like additionally learned or something, you can put in skills or knowledge. But maybe if you are super good and then you get like some sort of scholarship or something, which is quite like about your academic or research, and then you can write that into the notable achievements.
Yeah, that's nice. Shardul, do you want to add something?
No, I'm just texting the answers like crazy. I was not listening. Listening. Sorry for that. I was just reading and just typing really fast.
I noticed that the questions are mostly related to if they are doing something which is different or if they're just
Mhm.
doing and should they mention. So just make sure that even if they are not aligned with your current interest, like let's say you want to apply in the immunological field, but you are working on the machine learning, right? Like right now, and you want to shift your approach. So just write that you have worked in it and you have research experience that you can work with a team, right? That's what they want because they will have a team of grad students there, which you will be under them, right? Secondly, what I forgot.
I would
Okay.
like to add one thing. Like the project that I eventually got selected in, I had no prior experience in that. I had a research experience, but it was in a totally different domain. So what I did was I justified my inclination to this field by writing it properly and presenting it really well. So if you don't have research experience, or if your research experience is something else and you want to apply for something very new, you can write that in a very nice manner. You can figure it out how you want to write it yourself. But make sure if that is the case, you mention it properly so they know and they know why you want to do that.
Yes, now I remembered that if you are doing something right now, so make sure you get the permission of your professor if you could mention those things, right? Because sometimes the project is confidential. So make sure you mention. And I was just mention the project title. Let's say you are doing something somewhere and you want to apply for the next thing. So mention that in your CV that you are currently doing from say September till present, and just write that experience under experience as well.
So there are two questions that I would like to all of us to discuss. Firstly, the current project should come under the first description essay. So as Shardul mentioned, you're working on something. Please mention it in any way you can. While I was applying, I was working on me and another friend were working on drug discovery hackathon project. So it wasn't completed at that time, but I chose to mention it, and so I uh, so I did mention it, saying that I am working on something related to computational biotechnology in the field of drug discovery. And since there's also COVID thing which I wanted to work on, so I mentioned all of these together and showed it in my research interest as well. And secondly, there is the question how to write in research interest in short. So uh, that's something very difficult because you should first understand what your research interest is. Like unless you narrow down the domain where you are, like what exactly the domain you want to research in, it will be very difficult for you to write it. Like Ritu had immunology and genetics. So what did you write in the research interest, Ritu?
For the research interest, because immunology and genetics are both aligned to healthcare system. So that's what I see myself being in industry, but with the doctors, like helping in the medical field, right? As an engineer, as a scientist. That's what I wrote that I want to, and that's a long-term goal for me. It was a long-term goal, not a short-term goal, which I wrote there. And yeah, like for the, I mentioned, like I made sure that the projects I'm aiming for, the professor finds me appealing to take into her group, right? Or his group. So
Right.
make sure you are also aiming for the same thing. Okay.
So yeah, even I have some kind of a similar thing. So I wanted to work on computational biotechnology and as well as immunology. Now both of these are a little different unless you do in vivo things in immunology. So I use these terms like in vivo immunology and computational biotechnology. Like these were the terms that I wanted to mention along with the whole healthcare system in general. So that how I connected these words, and then that is how I got the interest. So you should narrow down the words first and then connect them together, like in a short phrase. Not a sentence, in a short phrase would help. So that's
So I think I got disconnected because of my computer. I'm so sorry for that. So there are a couple of pointers. One, before reading my SOP or whatever I have sent, I request you to write your own first. Do not take it as a template that because I got selected, you might follow the same and get selected as well. It doesn't work that way. Point number two of how you should write your research interests. I think just like Ishita mentioned, she liked immunology and computational biology. In such a case, for at least as far as biology domain is concerned, everything is very interconnected and interdisciplinary. So I am working on oncology and drug delivery right now at
my internship where I am as of yet. And while my application was going on, I was working on core fundamental oncology on how signaling pathways can cause cancer. While before that, I was working with an IIT Roorkee professor computationally during the 2020 peak pandemic on antimicrobial drug resistance using autodocking and stuff. So all of these, if you look at them, you cannot weave them together in a story. But there are so many labs which require a computational biologist to solve immunological issues, because when you are dealing with drug delivery systems, you need to know what are the target points of that ligand or that substrate, right? So in such a case, you can always find an interface between the two, and you just need to know the right term to use it, and that's usually a subject. So you just write that there. And for you, this is just a kind of a knack that I felt worked for me, was that while you write your research experience, keep it very similar to your experiences that you have. So if you're writing 10 research 10 research projects or 10 research terms that you'd want to work on in the future, let 8 of them be from something that you've already learned or had a coursework from. Let it not be like out of the blue, I like space missions. No, don't do that. That's gonna you're gonna fall that way. So you can just have like you have 10, you can just write like, manlo that I have worked on oncology and computational biology, so I can write oncology, computational biology, pharmaceutical biotechnology, and I can write immunology, or I can write something as absurd as nanotechnology. Don't keep it extremely diverse just because it interests you, and if it does, then you need to take the risk of writing it really well, and that's something important.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree to this.
I
Maybe
just
you
have
can
a
go
couple
on.
of clarifications. Can I go ahead?
Who's
Hello.
yeah.
Yeah. So I had one clarification that I personally like to write in bullet points so that I can convey better. But in some of the other research internships, they specifically ask us to write it in passages, so they actually can get to know how well we are at writing skills, because we're going to publish papers later, right? So how do any of you feel that is it important to write in paragraphs, or bullet points should be okay?
I think this is the
So
one
like,
application where you're not required for like to do something specifically, like it's not
yeah.
flexible. So yeah, sure.
So like there have been
So
interns, like I wrote in paragraph, and like Ishita just told you, like she
mentioned,
wrote
yeah.
it in, yeah, she mentioned that she wrote it in points. So it isn't really specific how you write it, but it's important too about what you are writing, the content you are actually writing, that is going to make a difference. The format doesn't really matter a lot, but
So to
write whatever
logically
you are comfortable with. Yeah, go ahead.
So to logically justify, see, I do get the point that they want you to write in paragraphs because they want to see how good your English is, how good of a story can you create and everything. But in 100 words, typically you cannot even start a story. So you need to be very sure of that. And even if you're writing a paragraph of 100 words, every second word is of importance, because that is why it's of 100 words, right? It's not of 1000 words where you can, say, oh, I was in school, my teacher was beautiful, she taught me this. That's not going to work here. You have to be very to the point. And in such a case, I think writing in bullet point always works. And I wrote the first question in bullet points, while the rest, other two, I wrote it in as you mentioned, a paragraph form, because while you're writing your achievements, you need to show that you're proud of your achievements, right? Which is not possible if I write it in bullet points. If I just write, I am the second or the third ranker in my class, or XYZ, I was in my 12th class. That's not showing that I'm proud enough of it. So I need to write it in a beautiful language to show. I think I have that. My computer's just got hanged. I'll just put that up as well.
It's
So
funny.
you should know where to write what.
Yeah, it's funny. Like when I
So
applied for the internship and all my applications process, it never it just never struck me that I have to write something in full words and full lines and paragraphs.
Yeah.
It just never came into my mind. And today, few days back, someone was asking me how to write an SOP, how to write an SOP or the background interest. And I was like, that's not needed. You just have to mention the points. And then that was the time when it just came to my mind, oh, you could have written it in the paragraph way. So there's flexibility. You can do anything you want to as long as you present yourself well and you sell yourself well. That's the most important point.
For me, I just had like for academic thing, I haven't published any paper. I didn't have any prior research experience, right? Nothing. Okay. So what I did was I had a scholarship. I wrote that in my first year and my second year, right? And I wrote my Amgen thing, right? And apart from that, like, you know, that was you you people, and you know, seeing Shadu's paragraph, I was like, how did I get selected? Writing all this stuff.
Right.
So I think for notable achievements, you can actually start like I just got it, so I can just send it right now. But I actually started it like I've always been a meritorious student and I was the topper of my batch. So that is how you can start your notable achievements. Don't keep it restricted to just bullet points, because there you'll not be able to glorify your achievements. However small they are, I realized that my achievements are really shallow when I started writing them. But you can't let them feel that. You can feel shallow about your achievements, not them. So you need to
That's true.
glorify them to an extent where they go like, oh my God, she's the topper of the country. That's exactly the feeling you need to give them, however exaggerated that sounds.
Market yourself.
Because otherwise, imagine my application ID was in 90,000s, and yesterday I came to know that there were only 400 students from India selected. So if you are competing with everybody, including students from IIT who will have better achievement section or better research experience than you need to play it off with your writing,
Right.
because that's going to make you different. That is in your hand.
Let's
Yeah, makes sense.
further.
Just, sorry, it clarifies my question. The second question is, we are applying for 7 projects. So we will be called, like Mitacs management will ensure that we'll be called by the professors who will select us out of those 7 projects, or is it only one of them?
Yeah.
Okay, that is a huge topic now. So can I take it? Like,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, Ishita.
Sure.
Yeah. So after you have applied for 7, there will be the first wave of screening. That will be the eligibility screening. Okay. In that, the professors won't be involved. Only the Mitacs employees will be involved. They will go through your SOPs and all your documents that you have already submitted. They will make sure that everything is in the correct. It is up to the standards, and like marks are above 75%. After that, they will read your SOPs, and out of the 7 projects, you would be under consideration for a few of them. So for my case, I had applied for 7. I was under consideration for 5 projects in the first wave, and the selection happens in 2 waves: the first wave and the second wave. In the first wave, of the 5 projects that I was under consideration for, 5 under consideration for, I got interview calls for 2 of them, and 3 of them I didn't get any interview calls. So it is not that if you have applied and you're under consideration for them, you will get an interview call for all of them. Many professors don't take interviews for the students. What they actually get is a list of students. Then they if they are like they have the free time and they're that interested in conducting an interview, they conduct interviews for some of them. They rank them on their preference, and you are also supposed to rank the professors on your preference. When after that, if it's a good match that he has extended an offer and he is a higher on your preference list, if you have gotten multiple offers, then you would get that project. So it's more like JE counseling, but there's another factor involved that the professor also needs to give his preference while selecting you. That's the whole thing. And if you don't get an offer in the first wave, then you are under consideration for again for the same projects and the ones you were not under consideration for in the previous wave. If students have not been selected in those projects, then the whole thing happens again. And if you get selected, you get an offer at the end of the second wave as well, which happens like around February.
To
Did
add
that
on to what
solve your?
Shardul
Yeah,
said, there are
yes.
3 more points. One, you might not even have an interview and still get selected, because that happened with me. Point number 2, the professors also receive the names in certain sequence, right? So it is not that if you have applied for first preference to him, he will also get a sequence, a different sequence, because that happened when I was not receiving a lot of emails for interview. I took the risk of emailing a professor and asking him if he has gone through my application. And that is when he said, no, I can't see your application as of yet, but I'm sure it might come in the second wave or the next wave. So they get like 10 students, and then they select 1, 2, or 3, depending on how many they want. And then they interview them. And one of my friend, he was in a loop, in a pool where 7 of them were interviewed for one position. So it is like that. So it is, it is not predictable of, you cannot predict that procedure. Absolutely.
It's very unpredictable.
And it is not, and it is a big risk to email professors. Don't do that.
Yeah, they have specifically
You
written
can do
that
that after,
don't email
you can do
professors.
that after your application is submitted, because that's when
Hmm.
I did, but that is equally wrong. I died of anxiousness for 3 days.
Yeah, and there is this question: do a lot of projects get cancelled? Let's get to the project part first, then, because since everyone has come to the project part, so like there will be projects you'll have, and there's no way of telling that your project will or will not get cancelled. It's all very uncertain. So last
So
year,
the thing with canceling is that some professors apply for multiple projects on the Mitacs website, and they only have funding for like one of them. So like if they want to increase the chances of getting an intern, so what they do is like list out a lot of projects, and if they get one intern, they cancel others. So what you should try to do in this case is that if you are applying for one professor, then only apply to one of his projects. Don't apply to
Yeah.
two of projects of the same professor. I did that, and 2 of my projects were cancelled. So don't do that.
It's
Please
like you're
don't do that.
reducing your sample space. Imagine if
Exactly,
you're applying to the
exactly.
same professor for 2 projects. If he does not like you for one, why do you think he'll like you for the other one?
exactly.
Yeah,
So it's just,
don't do
you're
that.
just reducing your sample space. Keep it as diverse as possible, not subject wise, but professor wise and the university wise.
Like,
And yeah. Oh yeah, go ahead.
no, I do not have something specific. Please.
Oh, so I wanted to tell you that you aren't competing with the entire application pool. You're only competing with the people who have applied to the same project. So while selecting projects, the approach that I followed was I segregated my first in the first iteration.